Hello, I'm Annie. Chances are if you've clicked onto this video, you're interested in how to get your first client. And so I'm going to share with you my detailed story of how I got my first few clients. There's no fluffy strategies in here, it's just things that's worked for me, and I think it's very replicable. So I just wanted to share and see if anyone else there can benefit from it. So essentially, I am a designer by trade. I studied graphic design in university, and now I run my own design studio. But in this time in between, a lot has happened. So let's go back in time. Essentially, when I was in my first year of university, I loved, dreaming up big ideas. I came up with the name emptistudio, and I thought it was really cute because I didn't have a studio then. It was empty, there was nothing there. And there's a philosophy called emptiness. It's inspired by a Buddhist philosophy, and also a head designer of Muji, my favorite designer. He referenced this in one of his books that I read as well, of this idea of emptiness, which is, emptiness isn't nothing, but it is the canvas where all possibilities ignite. It is the beginning of everything. So I chose empty, E-M-P-T-I, instead of E-M-P-T-Y, because it was more unique, and it kind of had this little story tied to the philosophy of emptiness, of how as a branding studio, a brand is that vessel that holds meaning. It's empty until you and your audience fills it up with meaning and associations that makes it powerful and it resonates. So that was kind of like the little idea behind it, and I just registered that as a business name, got my ABN and things like that in my first year of university. So that was done. But in year 2 of university, I moved closer to where I studied, and the real estate agent asked me, what did I do? And I said, I'm still studying, I do design. And he was like, that's really interesting, because we're actually looking for a designer to be able to create a little brochure that we're putting in people's mailboxes. Do you think you can do that? And I was like, yeah, I think I can do that. So he said, okay, cool, I'll message you the details and you can send me through a quote and an invoice. I was so shocked but excited at the same time. I was like, no way, this is actually happening. I can actually make money off of this. So I was super pedantic about having a professional presence. I wanted to treat this seriously. So having already registered my business name, I then went and purchased a domain. I got the G Suite, so the Gmail handle that is Annie@emptistudio.com. So I registered that straight away that afternoon, and I searched up how to design an invoice, and I designed a custom invoice for him. I did not know anything about accounting or anything, whether the invoice was even formatted correctly. I just did it. I priced myself. I was worried about the pricing as well, but I charged him $400 for that brochure, which comparatively to the industry is low. But for myself, that was an insane amount of money. I was like, wow, if I could get this brochure done in a few hours and charge $400, I am making a lot of money. Because before that, I worked in Calvin Klein as a sales rep. I worked in a sushi restaurant. I was tutoring. So $400 is something that you make over a couple of days. And I think this brochure, it only took me a day or two. I spent a lot more time because I wanted to get it right. But he was very happy with the price. He's like, okay, well, I just want to work with you now because you're a lot more affordable than other designers he's talked to. So it was a win-win on both sides. And that was the first time that I saw how valuable my skills were, and that I made $400 from it, but also the client thanked me and he really appreciated the work that I did. So it was very fulfilling, and it kind of showed me the possibilities of what this could become if I had more regular clients coming in. So for this, it was really just being at the right place at the right time. It was a fine dose of luck in there. But I think the lesson to take from this is to put yourself out there, to share with people what it is you're passionate about, what it is that you do, and people would need that service. It's just not being shy about it and putting yourself out there before you're ready. For me, having registered that business name when I had no use for it, it could have been a bit silly. But if you decided that you want to take it in this direction, you don't need to be shy about it. Just take action before you're ready. And when it comes to even having at emptistudio as an email, it wasn't necessary, but it was such a confidence boost for me. I even prepared a little contract and proposal for him to sign, because he knew I was very young and I was inexperienced. He was like, oh, that's cute, like sending me a little contract. And every time after then I would still send him a little proposal and a contract for him to sign. And he was like, oh, Annie's getting me to sign that little contract again. It's kind of funny, but I take myself seriously. So he takes me a lot more seriously than he probably otherwise would have. I think it's really nice. There's something that's really nice about seeing someone put a lot of effort in as well. I think that's what clients really value too. And so the second client that I took on board was after I started working for a design studio. So I worked for a design studio for a couple of months and I felt like it wasn't the right place for me, so I eventually decided to take a step back and just to focus on other things. I was studying a second degree and I was also doing other things on the side. So I stepped back, and someone from the team said they have a friend who works for Ray White. She's the manager of Ray White, and Ray White is a really big real estate agency which has a lot of different branches. So she's a branch manager for one of them, and she wanted to create a poster and a social media campaign revolving around thanking their staff for the year. And so she reached out to me. I also took action and agreed before I felt 100% ready. I was like, no problem, I can do it. You can connect me to her. Between that time, I actually up-leveled my proposals. I made it all digital. I made it all interactive. It looked really good. It looked really legit. I was only my second client, to be frank, like my second independent client. She asked how much would it be, and I asked her if she has a budget or not, and she was like, no, not really. So I said it'll be $1,200. Oh, it was scary to put out there, but you know, I was then a little bit more well versed on industry standard rates. I was a little bit more well versed on the client's needs, what average budgets could be for that kind of work, and I didn't want to underprice myself, because I knew that underpricing myself would actually make them question my professionalism. So I put that price out there. I knew I was worth it. I was going to put in so much work on this that they would be really happy with it. That's what I wanted to guarantee them. So I put that price out there, and she was like, cool, no problem, no questions asked. She put down a deposit straight away through that interactive proposal that automatically charges her, and we were on our way. I did that design, she was really happy, and so that was the experience of my second client. I think a key learning from this is to just once again tell people what you're interested in, because the people that I used to work with, they knew that I was into, you know, graphic design and doing posters, social media, things like that, and so they couldn't take on that project in that studio because they were a larger studio. So he referred her to me and it worked out. And then it's also another thing is not undervaluing yourself. If she said no, I would have been definitely bummed out, but I just had that confidence, and I was researching a lot about pricing as well. So that's also something to remember, is that you are worth a lot more than you think. You have to think of it in your client's perspective. Just because you're a broke uni student doesn't mean a company who's a lot larger than you would imagine doesn't mean that their budget is, you know, sometimes you can't comprehend how much people are willing to spend for that skill that you're offering. So do your research and just be confident when you're quoting people, and more times than not people would say yes, and more times than not, because you ask for a higher price, they'll have more confidence in you, and you put more effort into it, and the outcome is better overall. So that was the second client. It went from 400 to 1,200, and then the next one, it was a branding project, and then I asked for 5,000 for that one. And it's actually really interesting because this client is my dad. He runs like multiple different businesses. He did one that's in relation to like meat and retail of premium like Australian meat, and he wanted a designer, and I was like, I can do this, that's me, I can do this. I showed him some of my previous work that I did as concept projects. Before this, I also designed a brand for my mom as well. She did ceramics for a bit, so I did a full brand for her. I put in my portfolio. She didn't pay me anything, so I wouldn't say she was a client, it was just a passion project of mine. And I showed my dad that, and he was like, that looks pretty good. You want to do it for me? Because he lives overseas. During this time, I didn't really like ask him for anything. So he was just like, how much would you charge a client for this? And I'm like, probably around like $5,000. And then so he's like, okay, I'll pay you to do this for me, so you'll take it seriously. And I did it. So he paid me $5,200 for this project. I did it to the best that I could, and I'm really happy with the outcome. That was a major confidence boost. And that's something also as well, is if you're working with a relative, with a friend, don't be too shy to charge them. When there's accountability in the form of actual financial investment, they take it seriously. I would think that if there wasn't that monetary transaction, I think he would have been like, is she gonna be able to do this? Like, maybe I should just focus on uni first. But yeah, I did it. He was really happy. He got his return on investment, I'd hope. So that was my third client. And the fourth client is my largest client. It was also a referral from my ex-creative director. And he had a good friend in university who's now the COO of this company. He knew that I liked branding and web and stuff like this, but they don't really take those type of projects inside their studio, and their rates are so much higher. So he referred his friend to me. It was really happy and over the moon. I walked in there with a lot of blind confidence. I thought it was just a small business, maybe a couple of people. I bought a whole course on how to run a proper brand strategy workshop, and I just went into the office and like, cool, let's do this. Not realizing that they were actually, being a young company, they were big. They had, I think, around 100 employees. I might be wrong, but somewhere around about there for being just less than 2 years in business. They had a really nice office. They were really close to where I lived then. And I walked in, I was like, whoa, this is a lot more established than I thought it would have been. I was talking to the CEO, I was talking to the COO, I was talking to the Chief of Growth, and I just ran my brand strategy workshop officially for the first time. And to this day, I don't think they know this. I haven't really shared this story with them. And they're probably like, whoa, Annie, I did not realize that that was your first time. If I knew it, I might have been more skeptical. But just putting your hand up and not being too scared. I was definitely scared, but not being too scared to the point where you give up. Try it out, because sometimes it is that like fake it till you make it, but faking it doesn't really help. You have to actually have the knowledge. Like, I purchased so many online courses over these few years. I think I spent a crazy amount of money on online courses, probably the same as my tuition, but it's been so worth it. And that's probably something we'll get into in another video, is investing in yourself, knowing kind of what to put your money in to get that return on investment, and not being stingy towards yourself, because this is the thing that's going to make you money down the line. And I would have paid for some courses, I would have happily paid triple, quadruple, like 10 times what I paid, because now I realize how much benefit I reaped from it, and how much results I've been able to get my clients just by taking that one course. So do your research. I've been scammed before as well, so that definitely happens. Just be cautious. But essentially, that client now, they're still my biggest client, because they have so many brands underneath them. It's like a whole ecosystem, and they get me to design all of their brands, and I am so grateful. This is probably my first 4 clients. I've gotten more since then, but really you can see the progression. That last client, I charged them $15,000 for the first major project. It's a huge number, but it took like many months. If you divided it by month, it's probably like a good salary. But for me, it was like crazy, but I knew I could provide them the value, and I knew that it was worth it. And by them agreeing to it was a testament to that. I'm happy to dive into how I price my offers and how I was able to have that mindset to be able to ask for higher prices. You can see the jump was quite drastic, but at the same time my skill level also improved drastically, my confidence improved drastically, and I have never had a refund from any clients. I make sure that everyone walks away thinking that I would have been happy to spend double, triple what I spent with Annie on this project, and that's something that I'm really proud to say, that I deliver things to the best of my ability 100% of the time, so that you don't feel bad as a service provider for charging what you charge, and to always be confident in the level of work that you provide. Yeah, so that's how I got my first 4 clients. It's really sometimes through connection, but connection, remember, it comes from putting yourself out there first to experiment. If I didn't join that studio and I didn't have those experiences of feeling like this isn't for me, I felt so lost, I felt so stressed all the time, but if it wasn't for that experience, I would have never gotten those 2 bigger clients down the line. And without that last big client who catapulted my career into what it is now, I don't know where I would be now, but really it's just putting yourself out there. Next time I'm gonna film a video on how to do like active outreach. If that's something you're interested in, let me know. But I've learned a lot through another program I've joined on how to do cold calls, cold emails, running ads and things like that. So that's the next one. But thank you so much for being here. See you next time.